Hey everyone, welcome to That's Peculiar. I'm Nathan.
I'm Andra.
And because Friday the 13th is upon us, another one, Andra has put together a Friday the 13th episode for this week, which means that the second treatise of Seth has been pushed back yet another week.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
I like a theme episode.
It's fine. It's fine.
Is it? Well, I do have a fun fact. Did you know the fear of Friday the 13th is so common that it has its own phobia?
It has a phobia named after it?
Yeah, it's called paraskevidekatriaphobia.
Say it again.
Paraskevidekatriaphobia.
Catriophobia?
It's like katria, like three, phobia.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I could ever say that.
Might be triophobia. It's probably triophobia.
Triophobia?
Yeah.
No,
so it's paraskevidekatriophobia.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up here.
Yeah, I did look it up. Good luck.
Friday the 13th. Let's see.
I wrote in here, try saying that 3 times fast.
Paraskevidekatriophobia.
I was right on the end. It's tria, but
paraskevidekatriophobia.
Yeah. You say it way better.
So if you say it like deca, tri, like deca is 10 and tri would be 3.
Yeah, so
okay.
13.
Okay, yeah, okay, that fair enough.
Yeah, it literally says it's the Greek words paraskevi or skevai is Friday in Greek. And then the decastrius is 13. And then obviously phobos is fear.
So it could be, is it tria or tria? Triophobia?
So this is the Greek pronunciation is a little different. I think it is triophobia, but this is like trius is the end. It's decatrius is like the Greek.
So it could be decatriophobia. Paraskevid.
Could be.
Decatriophobia.
So long. Around 17 to 21 million people in the U.S. alone are affected by it. Flights are canceled. People skip work.
What?
Yep.
Hold up, I work on Friday. Maybe we'll get canceled.
So you're like working and flying.
Yeah, I'm working and flying.
You're
maybe
the triple.
Maybe we'll get a cancellation. I can have a nice long layover somewhere.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun fact because, guys, Friday the 13th has a track record for disaster. And this leads us into today. We have a themed episode, obviously. Friday the 13th episode, we're diving into eerie tragedies that happened on Friday the 13th. Yeah. We will talk about the luxury cruise ship that turned into a modern-day Titanic.
What? Wait, is that the one that happened in Italy? That was Friday the 13th?
That was Friday the 13th. Like, we're not smiling. People died on there.
I did not realize that happened on Friday the 13th.
That was Friday the 13th.
I can't wait to hear more about this.
We're talking about a Nazi bombing that nearly wiped out the British monarch.
That's not as fun.
Monarchy. It is, though. And then we're finishing, and then the shocking end of a man who lived life on the edge until Friday the 13th caught up with him. Let's dig in.
Yeah, please.
So we're starting the Costa Concordia disaster, yes. Friday 13th, 2012.
I am still flabbergasted. My gabbers are flaccid.
What's funny is Jack actually, he was kind of iffy. He was like, maybe you shouldn't do this episode. So it was actually his idea that I do segments on 3 different themed ones. But he thought it was like too close to home for some of the people that actually went through this. And like, we're not making fun of this. I just want to make light. We're just bringing it to light that this happened, and it's Friday
Yeah, that's the part that that's what made my Gabbers flaccid, is that it actually happened on of all the days.
Friday the 13th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's rewind to January 13th, 2012. The Costa Concordia, a 570 million floating palace,
Yep.
had just set sail from,
Hard words.
I know, Civitavecchia, Italy? I think.
I
I
can't
think
help you
that's
with
it.
that one.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. This 114,000-ton cruise liner had everything, had pools, theaters, fine dining, spas. It was literally like
Yeah, it was top of
Italy's
the line.
Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't its maiden voyage, though, right?
No, not that I'm aware
Because
of.
that definitely would have added insult to injury.
Yeah, just a little bit. It doesn't seem like it was the maiden voyage, but let's just keep going. At the helm was Captain Francesco Schettino. A man known for his charisma and his ego. That night, Schettino decided to perform what's called a salute maneuver in Chino, which is in Italian, or in I think it's in Chino. I'm pretty sure, because I did look that up. It had like a...
I love that you're doing the hand motion right now with it.
Yeah, nobody else can.
Sure it's in Chino.
In Chino. I have to. Spaghetti.
Good.
This involves steering the massive vessel dangerously close to the island of Giglio. I hate these pronunciations, but to impress a retired captain and island residents. So he was trying to,
His ego was getting the
awesome.
best of him, is what happened.
Yeah, so he was off course. He was speeding and ignored multiple safety protocols. At 9:45 p.m., the Concordia struck an uncharted rock formation just 450 feet from shore.
That is so close to shore.
Yeah, a 160-foot gash tore open the hull. The ship began taking on water almost immediately, knocking out power and causing it to list or tilt.
Tilt, yeah.
Yeah, sharply to one side. Evacuation was chaos. Lifeboats were mismanaged, and the abandoned ship order didn't come until more than an hour after the impact.
What?
Passengers climbed walls, jumped into freezing water, and scrambled for safety into total darkness.
That is insane. An hour later?
I know.
I mean, I'm glad they were close to shore. I feel like that's one of the only saving graces.
Kind of. In a moment that went viral around the world, an Italian Coast Guard ordered Schettino, the captain, to return to the sinking ship after learning he had already fled to shore. His words, "Vada a bordo, cazzo," something like that. Cazzo. I'm not Italian, so the translation is "get back on board, damn it." But Schettino never did. He was later convicted of manslaughter, abandoning ship, and causing a maritime disaster.
Yeah, I thought captains were supposed to be last off the ship, if not go down with the ship.
Right. Well, not that one.
What a coward.
He is serving a 16-year sentence.
Good.
Yeah. The Costa Concordia didn't just crash. It became the largest passenger ship ever wrecked. The salvage, I'm drinking Waterloo. Sparkling water.
Sparkling water.
The salvage operation alone cost over $1 billion and took 2 years.
1 billion with a B?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
32 people lost their lives.
That is bonkers.
So it's like, yeah, they were close to shore, but 32 people lost their lives still.
I don't know. You probably don't know this, but where it hit on the hull, like what area did that hit? Like cabins or
on the... No, I don't actually know, but it did hit like side bottom. So if you know anything about ship, I'm willing to bet it's like whoever is on the bottom and probably some cabins. And I'm assuming that's part of the cause of some of those deaths.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like somebody got stuck somewhere, and because
Definitely.
yeah.
In the end, the Costa Concordia disaster became a powerful lesson in accountability and importance of safety at sea.
Yeah.
While 32 lives were tragically lost, the incident did lead to sweeping changes in international maritime. Am I saying that correctly?
Maritime.
I was originally saying it like that, but it doesn't
It
look
doesn't
right to
feel
me.
right. Yeah.
Designed to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. So they did start taking measures after this happened. The ship did sink, but the response and recovery showed how human determination can rise even the darkest moments. I just wanted to end on a high note and 32 people died. And I just want to say some stuff did change
yeah.
and regulations
After a
changed.
disaster like that, I feel like regulations would have to have improved as far as training to staff, as far as how to operate the, oh my God, what are they called? Lifeboats? Jesus, that was
Yeah,
hard to find.
they are
As far as
lifeboats.
more lifeboat training and how to launch, and even as flight attendants, we have alternative doors and exit procedures that we can do that we're trained on. So I feel like if you're they probably had it where if you can't get to your lifeboat or it's blocked for whatever reason, you have a go to this area kind of.
It doesn't sound like they had that because the lifeboats weren't properly placed. So people were just jumping over the side. I think that is also I mean, I know you're in the air,
Yeah.
but you can't really exit a boat.
Yeah. I mean, to
Except
exit a
for
boat, you have to
literally
go either down into where the doors are, or you have to go to where your boat is, and they lower you into the water.
right. So other than that, you just go over the side, which is what it said people were
I'm
doing.
sure many, many people probably did. I don't know what I would do in that situation. That's scary.
Yeah, I would
especially
freaking
especially if it
panic.
was tilting to one side and it could have possibly capsized and just rolled over. That would have been awful.
Quite frankly, I'm pretty sure nobody will ever get me on a cruise.
Cruises are a good time.
That's what people tell me, and then I read stuff about when a disaster does happen, it's pretty
Well, it's rare. That's like you deciding not to get on a plane because sometimes they crash.
I don't know. I feel safer in a plane, which is so weird.
Well, I mean, air travel is still the safest form of transportation.
Yeah, well, I feel safer in a plane. Although, if it did come to like Earth was ending and we go to outer space or go into the ocean, so weird, I'd go into the ocean.
And do
It
what?
doesn't live.
In what?
Obviously, my submarine.
Okay.
You haven't heard that question before? Would you
No,
Xenon Z3 it up there, or
I
would you
would
be Spy
Xenon.
Kids down below?
No, I would Xenon Zetus Lapidus. Get me off this planet.
Well, I'd probably. You're right, because I guess the water would be affected too. Hmm. I've actually had a dream that I was going into outer space before, and it freaked me out. I was strapped in, and I was
What am I doing?
panicking when I woke up. Yeah, there's no going back. Good on you, Katy Perry. Good on you.
I don't
Okay,
even want to. Don't even get me started on her. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, let's go to the Buckingham Palace bombing, which was Friday, September 13th, 1940.
I can't believe that there was a bombing on the palace Friday the 13th.
It was the morning of Friday, September 13th, 1940, during one of the most intense phases of World War II. Some say, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I would kind of maybe not agree with that statement, but I didn't live through World War II, so I don't know. Nazi Germany had launched an aerial campaign over Britain known as the Blitz.
Oh,
Short.
I remember this. Continue.
You
The
remember
Blitz. I remember the
learning
Blitz.
about this?
I remember learning about the Blitz. Yeah.
You remember learning about this?
Yeah.
You did not exist in 1940.
I remember I was there. I look so good for
Suddenly, my past life is coming out.
I remember learning about it.
Yeah, short for it. So Blitz is short for the word.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah,
Yes.
good. Meaning lightning war.
Mm-hmm.
This was a strategy of swift, overwhelming attacks designed to demoralize the enemy.
The
Enemy? What are words? Guys,
Send
why are we
help.
doing... Yeah, why am I on a podcast when I can barely say most words? Anyways, I'm a great reader, though. I have a fantastic reading record. It's just saying it out loud.
Yeah, you can't say anything out loud.
Yeah, anyways. London, the heart of the United Kingdom, had already... So this is what's crazy to me. They're saying this was like the height of it.
Mm-hmm.
But London, the heart of the United Kingdom, had already been bombed for 9 consecutive nights.
Jesus.
So maybe they're just saying all together. But on this particular Friday morning, the war reached the gate of royalty.
I think that's why they are saying this is like... It made it that far. Like it's
10 nights of bombing.
And then it's hitting where the royals are supposed to be. Like that's huge.
Yeah. It was around 11 a.m. 5 high explosive bombs were dropped by a German bomber over Buckingham Palace, the official London residence of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the future Queen Mother. One bomb struck the courtyard, another obliterated the royal chapel. Several more damaged the north and south wings. Windows were blown in, ceilings cracked, debris scattered across the palace grounds. The king and queen were inside.
Oh my God. They didn't move them?
They didn't know. They didn't know that the next attack was...
You're in the middle but you're in the middle of the war. Wouldn't you want to be somewhere where people don't expect you to be?
I guess.
That's like
maybe now.
Like that's like the president in the middle of a war being in the White House being bombed when why? No, he's not going to be there during if there was a war on our soil. He would not be there. Hey everyone! A quick interruption before the show continues. This is Nathan, and I have a huge favor to ask. Please leave us a rating and a review if you are enjoying the show to help us reach more listeners like you. We love bringing this podcast to you every week and are trying to learn how to make it even more enjoyable for our listeners. Thank you for your support.
Well, maybe that speaks more for the resident of the White House and the Buckingham Palace resident.
I'm talking about specific president. I'm talking about in general president.
That's what I'm still talking in general. Maybe that speaks more for anybody who resides in the White House versus the Buckingham Palace, apparently.
I don't know. If that's who is supposed to be ruling. I mean, actually, the president. That's neither here nor there. If you're ruling a country as a monarch and there's a war happening in your country, I understand that you the sense of honor and nobility to be I want to be where I'm supposed to be for my people.
I just mean, why would a captain go down with its ship and not?
I don't. But that's the thing. But if you're supposed to be ruling a country, you can't rule it if you're dead. So
yeah. That's why they have the next people rule.
Yeah, but if they're all at the palace, if the whole royal family's living in the royal, that's what I'm saying. Strategy, you cannot be where people expect you to be.
Sorry.
So that's my 2 cents. Continue.
They had just finished their morning tea when the bomb hit. A member of the royal staff was injured by shrapnel, according to Queen Elizabeth's own words. The explosion blew the glass out of the window. I was picking it out of my hair for days.
Ugh.
The bombing was no accident, obviously. Buckingham Palace had become a symbolic target. Hitler reported believing that destroying it would demoralize the British public and shatter their national identity.
I could see that.
But if anything, it had the opposite effect.
I could see that too. I could
Yeah.
see the idea of being like, if we destroy what they view as like the pinnacle, then they'll be disheartened.
Right.
But then in reality, it's no.
Yeah.
We will.
During this time, the king and queen were urged to leave London for their safety, but they refused. There you go.
I'm so glad that somebody was like, you shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. In fact, they even visited bombed neighborhoods in the East End shortly after the palace was hit.
They still could. They still could have been not like, they didn't have to flee super far. They just needed to be not there. Like eventually they were going to get bombed at, or attempt to be bombed at the. Sorry, I just saw Bruce.
We have a bunch of like low attention span
Rough
people
day.
today. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, they said that they shouldn't be there, and they shouldn't be there. That's why I'm saying I get why they would want to be there, but if you're running the country, eventually in a war, they're gonna come for the palace. That's just facts is facts, you know?
Yeah, but
Okay,
they refused to leave.
good for them.
So they visited bomb sites. Queen Elizabeth's most iconic statement after the bombing was, "I'm glad we have been bombed. Now I can look at the East End in the face," because they had been bombed for 9 days straight.
Wow.
That wasn't just a quote, it was a turning point in the public's perception. The royals, often seemed as distant and privileged, were now seen as fellow citizens enduring the same suffering. So what you're saying, like they should have left, basically maybe that would have worked then. Like if they weren't even bombed themselves,
if you're saying
maybe Hitler's plan would have worked.
If you're saying that if they weren't actually at the royal palace and they had bombed the royal palace and they weren't there, then their countrymen would have been like, WTF mate, and they wouldn't be into it. They would have been.
So maybe it didn't work because they were bombed.
I can see that, and that's why I don't fault them for saying, because like I understand like this is where I'm supposed to be as a ruler, but at the same time is like strategy of like not dying to keep your country and your strategies for the war going too. It's a very fine line.
Yeah, well, thank God they didn't leave, because that's what made them feel instead like that they were regular citizens enduring the same.
We're no different than you.
All right, so this moment also cemented King George VI as a wartime leader. He had already earned public respect for choosing duty over personal comfort when he unexpectedly took the throne in 1936 after his brother abdicated. Do you remember that story?
No, actually, I don't remember that story. I wasn't there.
If I am correct, this is like what the king's speech is about.
Oh, is it?
I believe so. Basically, the brother that was originally supposed to take the throne wanted to get divorced and marry someone else. So he couldn't take the throne because I think divorce was still kind of taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he like ended up marrying somebody who was like below his class, wasn't like,
which is a no-no.
So King George VI ended up taking it, and he's the one, I believe, with the speech. He had a stutter.
He was the one with the speech impediment.
Yeah, so he had to learn like how to do speeches, which is interesting. So now he was already respected. Then he got thrown into the throne after his brother abdicated. Now, by staying in London under fire, he became a figure of stability. So honestly, it was probably a smart decision to stay. Why this mattered? The bombing of Buckingham Palace was one of the most direct attacks on the British monarchy in modern history. It was also a failure of German propaganda because instead of breaking morale, it strengthened it.
Yeah.
The event made headlines across the Allied world and was used to reinforce British resilience in the face of terror. This Friday the 13th didn't bring the end of a monarchy. It brought the beginning of a new royal era, one where public duty and sacrifice weren't just expected, but lived. So the wrap up on that, Friday the 13th, 1940, Buckingham Palace became more than a royal residence. It became a symbol of resistance rather than destroy the monarchy and the bombing, which is basically what I just said. So it brought the royals closer to the people they served.
Yep.
It proved that even in times of terror, leadership rooted in the presence and empathy can stand strong. So in the rubble, a new kind of royalty emerged, but it was like purely off of perseverance. Like, can you imagine though, like what you said, if the White House was bombed and they weren't even there, they're like, oh yeah, we're in Cancun. And you're like,
That's not where that's not where I'm saying
really?
they should go. I'm saying if they just need to be not at the what, like they could be.
I know,
It's
but
over. I don't care.
just imagine everybody else getting bombed.
Yeah.
Just imagine like LA getting bombed,
Yeah.
Washington, New York, Seattle, all of them getting bombed, and then like they're not even there. That would probably bring down morale.
I don't know. I feel like the American people know that during war, the president's not actually at the White House.
Maybe they should be.
They're like in a bunker. They're in a bunker somewhere where they ain't getting touched by nothing. That's where they're at.
Well, this is the difference. Anyways, what do you think about that?
I don't have an opinion, really.
I know you weren't as excited about that one, but did you at least find it
was interesting.
more interesting?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think that I do appreciate that the president, Jesus Christ, I do appreciate that the king and like that they stayed there as part of their duty. You know, I appreciate that because that does mean that it does give more of a feeling of that they really do care about what they're doing and who they are. You know, I hate using the term ruling because the monarchy is not really the figurehead at this point, but like as the head of a state, like it's like we're here, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're not running.
Yeah, but it used to be a lot more.
It used to be more like monarchy, but now it's more figurehead. But good on that. Like I appreciate that.
Like how you say appreciate, because I say appreciate and you say appreciate.
Appreciate. I can't
appreciate.
I can't. We can't do this with words today because it's gonna.
The word suck.
The word. Right. I don't even know what that means anymore. What does appreciate?
Yeah. I don't know. I do. Let's go into the segment 3. This is the final one. The daredevil who dove to his death on Friday, July 13th, 1979.
1979.
Yep, by the late 1970s, America was obsessed with daredevils. I didn't know this, but I found this out. These weren't just thrill seekers, they were pop culture icons. Mm-hmm. So think Evel Knievel launching over rows of cars, skydivers attempting to record breaking free falls, or tightrope walkers striding across skyscrapers.
Oh my gosh.
Danger, spectacle, and attention all collided to the golden age of television and stunts. Now let's enter Richard, the human fly. Guzman.
Never heard of him. I feel bad now.
Guzman was one of several performers in the human fly trend. Men who climbed skyscrapers, bridges, and billboards with no ropes, no nets, and no permission.
Gross.
It was a form of urban climbing, that's the term they used, in street theater before social media. But Guzman wanted to go even further. He wanted to fly.
Fly? No, what did he do?
On Friday, July 13th, 1979, Guzman planned a leap from the roof of a 31-story Hilton hotel in LA.
Wearing what?
Los Angeles. Free falling.
Into what?
Hundreds of feet into a large airbag below. It was marketed as the highest stunt dive ever attempted without wires. Television cameras were rolling.
No.
A crowd gathered.
No.
It was meant to be his big moment and his legacy. But that Friday the 13th had other plans.
Oh, no.
Just sounds so damn morbid.
That sounds
Guzman
awful.
Guzman made his way to the rooftop and waved to the crowd. The airbag, roughly the size of a small pool, was
What does
inflated.
that
So, like,
mean, the small pool? How small is small?
think like an inflated, like,
Like an above
smaller.
ground small pool?
That's what I picture. Small pool was inflated far below.
No, that's too.
Yeah, some witnesses later claimed that wind conditions were unfavorable. And it's LA, like it gets windy
Windy.
in LA. They also think the bag may not have been fully centered, but no one stopped the stunt. He jumped and missed. Instead of hitting the center of the airbag, Guzman landed just a few feet off, striking the pavement. I know, this one's cringy.
It is only a few feet off.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
That's what's worse. So part of the reason why I wanted to share this story too is like this was supposed to be his legacy, and just like you said in the beginning, you don't even know who he is.
I don't.
So I'd rather bring light to this because even though it killed him, this is a pretty freaking crazy stunt,
It
and
is.
maybe he should be talked about more.
I'm surprised it didn't. I honestly would have felt like, because I've heard of Evil Knievel and all this,
Yeah.
but I feel like I would have heard about the ones who failed spectacularly, and then we had the ones that failed, like Guzman. He jumped from a 31-story building and missed his airbag by feet.
Yeah.
Feet.
So it would have been successful if it was just. Yeah. So this scene turned from awe to horror in an instant. First responders rushed in, but the impact had been fatal. So that is good news. He was pronounced dead at the scene. His final act witnessed by hundreds in person and thousands watching live. But he was killed on impact.
Yeah,
so
I would.
Doesn't sound like any suffering.
From that high, I feel like that would.
Yeah. What is wild, like I just said, very little is known today about Guzman's life. He wasn't as famous as Evel Knievel. He didn't have a biography or a big sponsor. In some reports, there's confusion about whether Richard Guzman was even his real name or his stage alias.
Why does nobody know anything about this man?
Because there's no social media. There was no need.
But I feel like if you were to jump to your death like that, they would want to know who you were and would dig into your past and find your story.
They would try, but they're not sure if it was a stage name, and he wasn't that popular. He was just a person that climbed.
He was popular enough for people to show up to this stunt live on cameras, and there weren't like TV crews and like that had to be a bigger deal for a TV crew to be there.
They gathered attention in some way or some form,
and
but that doesn't mean they knew anything about him.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's late 1970s, so
that's crazy.
But the stunt did make an impact. Media outlets debated whether live.
Use the word impact. Because when you say the stunt made an impact, that's not.
I know. I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at you. I didn't even realize that when I wrote it. Anyways, in death, he became part legend, part cautionary tale. Faded from spotlight just as quickly as he entered. So basically, media outlets debated whether live danger should be entertainment. A question still relevant today with viral internet challenges and high-risk content. The tragedy sparked calls for more safety oversight in public performances. The wrap-up on this episode: Richard, the human fly Guzman, lived on the edge, literally. His story is a striking reminder of how far people will go for a shot at greatness. Not a short, it was short-lived, and how fast, my word choices on this, I'm not even drinking right now, like I'm just drinking water, so I don't understand why my word choices are so poor, but I just have to roll with it at this point. How fine is the line between glory and tragedy? On a day already drenched in superstition, his fatal leap became a grim entry of Friday the 13th lore. So, coincidence, or is this something truly peculiar about Friday the 13th? What do you think?
I don't
Like, take into account all three.
okay. I think I don't know how I feel about it, because I feel like Friday the 13th, I mean, to me, I'm like, oh, it's Friday the 13th, whatever. And I go, ooh, but I don't really give it a second thought personally.
I love Friday the 13th. I always get kind of excited by Friday the 13th.
I don't even realize it's Friday the 13th most of the time. I feel like
you didn't this Friday.
I had no idea. But I feel like when people put too much power into that, and that also kind of creates that vibe and can manifest in that
it's kind of like
thing.
when we talked. Yeah, sorry. It's kind of like when we talked about the Tahoe Tessie. Like, there's so much hype about it, you can trick your brain.
Yeah.
Maybe this is also what's going on. You're like so afraid of Friday the 13th. You're doing like missteps or
but I also
doing something wrong.
But like a disaster, of like of a cruise liner, not falling apart, running aground and sinking, and that to me, I'm like, that could have happened on Saturday. It didn't have to happen it could happen on Thursday. Like, it didn't. It just, I feel like that's just coincidence that it happened on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And but I feel like the Guzman, I feel like his thing, I feel like he probably chose Friday the 13th on purpose.
Maybe.
I could see someone who is doing daredevil type stuff choose those kinds of things to draw a crowd for that purpose.
Extra, like, I'm making the biggest jump in history, free falling on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, like, I could see people using that as a tactic as well. And then the bombing, I don't know, coincidence. I feel like it could be.
It was like it had been happening for 10 days, 9 days before.
Yeah, and so they're like, and then today we're gonna do this one. I think that's just a plan of war. I don't know. Also, I don't know.
Whether you believe in curses or not, there's no denying that history does have a way of remembering Friday the 13th as unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, that's why don't a lot of hotels don't have a 13th floor? Isn't that something?
I don't think so.
They don't have a 13th floor, quote unquote. I don't know.
I feel like I've definitely been on floor 13 before.
Now that I live in hotels, I should probably pay attention.
Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah, I should look at that.
You might actually have a floor 13.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't pay attention. I just go to the floor that I'm given. So.
Yeah, and I'm always on 21 or something stupid.
I would love to be at 21. I'm always at 6. Ooh.
I guess the taller you are up, the better, but I don't really care. And I'm literally thinking the few times I've stayed at a casino, I've been on 21.
Oh, see, I like that. All right.
I don't care.
Well, that was
I could stay on 6 and be happy.
That was a fun episode.
Dang.
No.
Yeah, I thought so.
I wonder what's gonna happen on Friday. Thank you.
See, nothing.
No, nothing's gonna happen. It's literally gonna be just a regular
day. We don't
day.
believe in it. We don't believe in the deca trifecta. Blah, blah,
Not
blah.
being very convincing. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's episode of That's Peculiar. Make sure to share, comment, follow. You can find.
We just got 100 downloads in 30 days. Less than 30 days. 12 days.
12 days. We hit over 100 downloads. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on That's Peculiar. Leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to help us find more listeners like you. Find us on our social media at That's Peculiar Pod on Instagram and TikTok.